The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
As a package, I thought we were as good as anybody in the league.
When people think about my dad, they usually think about the voice.
You're only as good as those you surround yourself with.
My dad had zero ego.
It was the community, the love of Saskatchewan that kept me here.
The farmer will tell you to your face what's going on.
Well, I either thank God or blame God because I don't ever remember not wanting to be a broadcaster.
I knew what I wanted to do for a living when I was in the 5th grade.
On air to me was home.
Welcome to 100 Years in One Night, a celebration of the people that helped build 620 CKRM. Please welcome your host for the evening, from Good Morning Saskatchewan, Gloria Evans.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Connexus Arts Center, and welcome to 620 CKRM's 100 Years in One Night Gala, celebrating 100 years of CKRM.
Tonight we'll be honoring 9 icons from CKRM's past, all who will be joined by one of our current CKRM team members. We will also hear special messages from dignitaries and partners. And in just a little bit, you will hear about key builders who helped make CKRM what it is today.
And it's so nice to see past salespeople and past announcers out here tonight as well. Thank you to our gold sponsors for making tonight's evening possible: Connexus Arts Center, Access Communications, Quality Tire, YAC Auctions, Heartland Livestock Services in Yorkton, Mac Auction Company, and Souls Harbor Rescue Mission. To introduce our first icon, please welcome the host of the Sports Cage, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays on 620 CKRM, Barney Shinkaruk.
Thanks, guys. I'm up here to introduce our first icon. From 1986 to 1997, he was the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders and also the head of the sports department at CKRM. I've never met the man, Jeff Currier, but I remember vividly in elementary school and high school in Saskatoon, listening to Rough Rider games on the 600 dial up there. And my friends and I would imitate it. And it sounded like this. Let's go down to the sidelines and Willie Cole, Willie, what do you got for us? And we still talk about it to this day. Jeff wasn't able to be here today, but he did send a video.
From Winnipeg. I thought this would be an appropriate piece of attire for such an august occasion. I want to wish CKRM Radio a happy 100th birthday and say to everybody who I had a chance to work with and be associated with for my 12 years there, just what a pleasure it was, how much I learned, how grateful I am for the time that I had in Regina and in Saskatchewan with the folks at CKRM and the wonderful people in Saskatchewan. I hope everybody has a great evening this evening, and a happy 100th to CKRM, and my heartfelt gratitude to everybody who I had a chance to work with and be associated with for all those years.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by saying I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person to celebrate such a remarkable milestone.
We'd
On
now
behalf
like
of the
to
Saskatchewan
invite
Roughriders, congratulations to everyone at 620 CKRM on 100 incredible years. Reaching a century of serving the people of Saskatchewan is an extraordinary achievement and one that deserves to be celebrated. For generations, 620 CKRM has been much more than a radio station. It's been the voice of Rider Nation, bringing every touchdown, every comeback, and every unforgettable championship moment into the home.
Friends, it is really a pleasure to be able to join you here tonight as we celebrate really an extraordinary milestone, being that 100 years of 620 CKRM. On behalf of Premier Scott Moe and the Government of Saskatchewan, congratulations. Congratulations to everyone who's really contributed to CKRM's remarkable legacy. For a century, CKRM has been much more than a radio station. Really, it's been a trusted voice, really a familiar companion, and really an important connection between communities across our province, truly a voice of Saskatchewan. Through changing technology, evolving audiences, and really some of the biggest moments in Saskatchewan's history, CKRM has continued to inform, to entertain, and bring people together. So whether sharing local news or supporting community organizations, celebrating Saskatchewan agriculture, or just bringing Rider football games into homes, vehicles, and workplaces across the province, CKRM has always understood the people that it serves. For me, listening in my hometown of Churchbridge, over 250 kilometers from here, it was listening to the Pats games or the Rider games with Willie Cole or Jeff Currier or Rod Peterson, or the Egg Show with Jim Smalley from my tractor or combine or at the kitchen table. Or really, my interest in politics, I believe, was stimulated by listening to Lauren Harrison. So tonight is really that opportunity to recognize the broadcasters, the journalists, producers, technicians, and staff, past and present, who really helped build this legacy. We are especially pleased to be able to be here tonight to help share the honor of these 9 icons, whose voices and personalities have become really such an important part of Saskatchewan's story. Their work has informed generations, created lasting memories, and helped make CKRM truly the voice of Saskatchewan. Reaching 100 years is really a tremendous achievement, but it's clear that CKRM's story is far from finished. So congratulations to the entire CKRM and Harvard Media team on this historic anniversary. Thank you for a century of service, storytelling, and community, and best wishes for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. And to introduce our first 620 CKRM icon, please welcome our CKRM Program Director, Brad Bazin.
I am hoping this is on. Yes, it is. Good. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to have the opportunity now to introduce Bobby Allen, who is the daughter of our next icon, James Allen. Bobby, you and I had a chance to talk before and do an interview. I think this is a good opportunity for maybe you to tell all of us about your father as you knew your father.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fred. I guess I could start at the genesis of my father, who started in the CN business. He learned the Morse code, and then he got a job in a Rosetown radio station, and he started his career there, and then he came to Regina and had an amazing career of 27 years. My father loved the media. He loved news. He loved to chase a story. He had integrity and perseverance, and it really consumed his life. I'd love to say that I was there through all of that. My father got up at 3:30 in the morning and was at CKRM for 5 a.m. and then came home and had a nap, and then off to TV for the 6 p.m. news. So we often didn't see my father till 7 o'clock to have dinner. So, he really dedicated his entire life to speaking to the people of Saskatchewan and giving them a story. And it was, it really was his dynasty. It is his legacy. He's not here today. It's been 11 years, but he's here. I have him here. And, my father led with heart. And that's the most important thing to do. What else can I say?
Beautiful.
And I do want to say, normally I'm on the other side of the camera and not here, so this is my first time. And I can understand how it'd be, difficult that must have been to show up every day for 27 years. I give him kudos. And, if he was here, he would be really happy that he would be able to wear plaid and a pair of jeans, because he really hated a suit. So, this is a wonderful evening to represent all the 9 voices of Saskatchewan, because they really were with everyone. You could dial in and they were on your radio. We had a radio on our microwave that had the CKRM every morning, and we had the news on at 6 p.m. Like, our house just illuminated with the news. It was a part of our life. And what a wonderful celebration this is, and he would be really grateful. Thank you.
And so we can all take a moment to remember your father. Here's a sound from 1988.
980 CKRM.
At 7 o'clock in Regina, it is 3 degrees Celsius or 37 Fahrenheit. This is James Allen. The news is a presentation of General Paints. In the news, saying the bill sets a dangerous precedent, the NDP opposition voted against a back-to-work bill that ends a strike of university professors in Saskatoon. Tomorrow, mainly sunny and a high of 8 degrees. In Regina right now, light rain 3, the wind is northwest at 37. In Moose Jaw's cloudy 3, the wind is northwest at 30. In Regina, 3 degrees Celsius or 37 Fahrenheit. Bob Hutton has all the sports, brought to you by Factory Optical and Canada Trust Real Estate.
When you're shopping for glasses, where you go?
James Allen.
Thank you, Brad and Bobby. And actually, fun fact, that old 980s CKRM news jingle that you heard, that's actually my ringtone on my phone. I happened to find that clip and I was able to save it, so whenever someone calls me, that's the ringtone, 980s CKRM. With greetings from the city of Regina, I'd like to invite up His Worship Mayor Chad Bashinsky to say a few words.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's a tremendous honor to join you here tonight as we celebrate an extraordinary milestone, 100 years of 620 CKRM. I also want to acknowledge Her Honor, the Honourable Bernadette McIntyre, Minister Kading, and one I don't get to say very often, His Worship, Mayor Murdoch, as well as thank you so much to Gloria and Cody for emceeing this evening. So think about that for a moment. 100 years. When CKRM first signed on the air in 1926 as CJRM in Moose Jaw, Regina had a population of under 50,000 people. Radio was brand new, tractors were replacing horses, and nobody had ever complained about crappy Wi-Fi. Yet, through every decade since, CKRM has been there, informing us, entertaining us, connecting us, and telling the stories of Saskatchewan. From its move to Regina in 1935 to becoming known across this province as the voice of Saskatchewan, CKRM has been much more than a radio station. It has been a trusted companion. It has shared the highs and lows of our community, covered harvests and elections, celebrated hometown heroes, followed the Saskatchewan Roughriders, championed agriculture, and helped neighbors support neighbors. It has reflected who we are as a province, resilient, hardworking, community-minded, and never short of an opinion. Of course, a century of success isn't built by transmitters and microphones, it's built by people. Tonight, we honor some of the voices that became part of Saskatchewan families. So let's give a round of applause to all of the incredible humans who have shaped CKRM. Their stories remind us that great broadcasting isn't just about talking, it's about listening. Listening to communities, to farmers, to fans, to families, and to the heartbeat of a province. For 100 years, people have started their days with CKRM. And on a personal note, I can tell you, when listening to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, we would watch on TV, but we always had the tried and true, always reliable 620 CKRM running in the background, because for some reason, when the kids were playing in the living room, all the adults would migrate to somewhere they could actually hear the game playing. This station has connected urban and rural Saskatchewan in a way few organizations ever could. Long before social media, but long before smartphones, and before anyone was arguing in the Facebook comments, CKRM was bringing people together around a shared conversation. And that legacy continues today. A lot has changed in the last 100 years, but one thing has remained the same, a consistent voice of Saskatchewan. On behalf of the City of Regina, congratulations to everyone who helped build the legacy that is CKRM over the last century. The broadcasters, the journalists, the producers, the engineers, the advertisers, the volunteers, and of course, the listeners. Thank you for preserving our stories, strengthening our communities, and giving Saskatchewan a voice. And a very special thank you to the Hill family and Harvard Media for their enduring commitment to and investment in Regina, Saskatchewan, and the communities they serve. Through their stewardship of CKRM, they have done much more than preserve a radio station. They've championed local voices, strengthened community connections, and carried forward a Saskatchewan institution that has informed, entertained, and united generations. So here's to your remarkable first 100 years and to the next chapter of the voice of Saskatchewan. Congratulations, CKRM, and enjoy the celebration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and I hope you're paying very close attention to all the speeches tonight, because there will be a quiz at the very end, just so you know. To introduce our next icon, please welcome my co-host of Good Morning Saskatchewan. She's been at it now for 40 years, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please welcome Gloria Evans.
All right, thanks, Cody. Well, we seem to have a little bit of longevity here at 620 CKRM, and it's a great honor to be here tonight and alongside a guy that Cody and I get to change off to after our morning show and pass it along to Colin, who really is, you know, George Jones. They call George Jones a living legend. Well, he's gone now. So, Colin, I'm passing the torch on to you.
Thank you, thank you.
You're our new living legend. Now, First off, Colin is famous for having barbed wire and sawdust and a bunch of other stuff laying around when the Lovequist Lounge starts. And I've been the guest bartender over the last week, and I don't know what to do with this stuff. I've cleaned it up. It's going to have to come around to you. So, Colin, first and foremost, you are looking dapper, and you have a fabulous walking stick with you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, after 40 years of doing what I love to do, first of all, I really appreciate the honor of being here, and very humbled and just appreciative of everything. And just thank you to the organizing committee that has gone out of their way to put on a fabulous event. Wait a minute, this isn't the Amish Strippers Convention. What am I doing? There you go, Landon. That's for you, buddy. I got you. Anyways, I just appreciate everybody and the acknowledgments we've received over the last little bit. It's truly an honor. And yeah, it's been a great ride, Gloria. 40 years in business, I think 33 at the mighty 620 CKRM. I was just a small town southern Saskatchewan boy that got the master key that opened a lot of doors. And I mean a lot of doors. I never thought I'd be able to do what I've done or have done, whether it's flying with the snowbirds. One of my first interviews back in the mid-'80s before I got to RM was with Johnny Cash. I got drunk with George Jones, went smoking with Ray Price. Just some crazy things have happened in my lifetime, and I'm just privileged to be a big part of this. And the Country Thunder, back in 1983, 620 CKRM started the Big Valley Jamboree. And there was Fred and Willie, and I was looking over the lineup. Dottie West was there. There were just some of the biggest names back in the day that you could have. And then the evolution continued. Then Father Larry of Bosco Homes jumped on board. And then you had the Kinsmen. They took over for a bunch of years. And then it was Rockin' the Valley for a few. And then we switched over to Troy Volhofer and Global Premier Entertainment. Troy's a local kid, played a lot of hockey in the area. And Global Premier Entertainment took over and became Country Thunder. And just remarkable, the stories and the people that I've been able to share with at those events. And truly just be able to rub shoulders with some of the biggest names in the country music industry. And be able to record them, and I saved those. Back in the day, it was all reel to reel, so a lot of the guys I know, I talked to Perry, he's got a regret or two for not saving some of those old interviews, but for some reason, my hoarding aspect kicked in, and I just kept everything, so now it's sort of cool that I can use that stuff at this time period and relive some of these great memories of country music and some of the biggest milestones. So Country Thunder's near and dear to me.
And some of those people are gone, Colin. So I like the way you get their voices back on the air to remind people about them.
And I always try to live in the present. Like, even if they're gone, I say, let's go to the stage. Here's George Jones. Just try to bring them back to life because they are just living legacies. And they just left such an indelible mark on myself and many others. And I've had a lot of people approach me tonight saying thank you so much for taking us along for the ride and the memories. And that's my biggest reward.
Now, before we move on, there's one other thing, and this is pretty cool because if anybody knows a little bit about radio, sometime, and it was way back when, it was like there was payola.
Oh, nasty.
Colin's like, oh yeah, I got a locker full of that back in my condo. Anyway, and so that was what, Colin? What was payola?
Payola back then, they drop off the jackets and trinkets, and you get a pen set or a can opener. Nothing too flamboyant, but it was just special because they were thinking of you.
Nothing in the liner sleeve or anything like that.
Oh, we got a few things in the liner sleeve, but I won't share those stories with you. But more so than not, we got a few things in the liner notes.
But there's one story you do want to share, and this is just the power of radio and helping out artists. And I'm going to say the name Tyler Joe Miller.
Super nice guy. I love Tyler Joe Miller. First Canadian independent country star that ever had a #1 single on the Canadian charts, and that was thanks to 620 CKRM, because I got this email from Mike Denny. He runs MDM Records, a small Canadian label. Jess Moskowik is on that label, and a few others they've signed to their stable. But I remember I got this email from Mike Denny of MDM, and he said, I can't believe it, we came up one spin short of a #1 hit on the Canadian charts, because Luke Bryan, I think that time, had the #1 song. So they were one spin short. I said, Mike, I'll find you that spin. Come hell or high water, I will find you that spin. So I started just thinking of where else could we have played this song, and lo and behold, the 620 CKRM Country Cookouts, we get to share the music that we take out to our listeners out on the field or in their concert or wherever. And I know that back in the COVID era, because this was 2019, the song was Pillow Talkin'. It was his debut single in the charts, one spin short, and I knew we played that song at the 620 CKRM Country Cookout. So I said, Mike, you and MDM and Tyler Joe Perry are going to have your #1 song.
Tyler Joe Miller has not stopped thanking Colin Lovequist since then. Ladies and gentlemen, an icon, and he's still in the making, Mr. Colin Lovequist.
Polish the brass, chicken wires on the window, and the sawdust is on the dance floor. Thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria and Colin. Now, CKRM originally started out as CJRM back on July 27th, 1926. And that radio station eventually became CKRM as we know it, but it began in Moose Jaw. And with greetings from the city of Moose Jaw, I invite His Worship Mayor James Murdoch to say a few words.
Hello. Good evening. Your Honor, the Honorable Bernadette McIntyre, Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan, Minister Kading, Mayor Baczynski, members of the CKRM family, honored broadcasters, and special guests. On behalf of the City of Moose Jaw, it is a privilege to join you in celebrating 100 years of CKRM. Tonight is a celebration of the voices of Saskatchewan, and Moose Jaw is extremely proud to hold a special place in this remarkable story. Before CKRM became known across the province as its story began in our friendly city, where 665 CJRM first took to the airwaves on July 27, 1926. It is fitting that the city where the team that would become the Saskatchewan Roughriders played its first game, and where the Canadian Forces Snowbirds later found both their home and their name, is also where CKRM began a century of connecting Saskatchewan people and sharing their stories. A great deal has changed since then. The studios moved, the call letters and frequencies changed, technology transformed the way radio was produced and heard, and generations of broadcasters took their turn behind the microphone. But through all that change, the purpose of great radio has remained the same: to connect people, keep them informed, and tell their stories. For 100 years, CKRM has been present in the places where Saskatchewan life unfolds: in farm shops before the sun comes up, in grain trucks and service stations, around kitchen tables, in arenas, and on the roads between the great communities of Saskatchewan. It has provided crop reports and market updates that shape the important decisions ahead, issued urgent warnings when severe weather is rolling in, brought local stories to a province-wide audience, and carried the excitement of unforgettable games into homes, vehicles, and combines across Saskatchewan. CKRM has given people in Saskatchewan a place to share their stories, from ordinary people doing extraordinary things to community volunteers, family businesses, and neighbors stepping up when someone needs help. For generations, it has shared the successes challenges, and community spirit of places across Saskatchewan, including Moose Jaw, helping our local moments become part of the province's share. Through it all, the voices behind the microphone became a trusted part of the family. They were not simply reporting on Saskatchewan life, they were part of it. This is what makes tonight's recognition of CKRM's icon so meaningful. The broadcasters being honored did much more than announce a song, share a story, read the news, or call a game. They became part of people's daily lives. Their voices woke Saskatchewan up in the morning. They rode along during long hours on the road and even longer days in the field. They introduced listeners to new music, brought humor into difficult days, and delivered information people trusted when it mattered the most. They were there for championship victories, devastating storms, bumper crops, and lean years. They helped listeners celebrate, grieve, laugh, and understand what was happening in their communities and across the province. Many people may never have met their broadcasters they listened to, yet still felt as though they knew them. That is a rare kind of relationship, built one morning, one story, and one broadcast at a time. A familiar voice on the radio can become connected to an entire chapter of someone's life. Years later, hearing that voice again can transport you back to the kitchen you grew up in, the first truck you drove, the people you worked beside, or the game you listened to with your family. That is the legacy of the icons being honored tonight. Their work did not simply document Saskatchewan's history. It became part of the memories Saskatchewan people carry with them. To each of the 9 icons being recognized, congratulations and thank you. Thank you for the companionship, the laughter, the information, and the unforgettable moments you gave your listeners. To everyone who has contributed to CKRM over the past century, both on and off the air, thank you for earning your audience's trust and for continuing to give communities like Moose Jaw a place in the provincial conversation. 100 years ago, a radio signal was broadcast from Moose Jaw and began an extraordinary journey. A century later, its impact can still be heard in the stories people tell, the memories they share, and the voices they will never forget. Happy 100th anniversary, CKRM. Moose Jaw is proud to be where your story began, grateful for the many stories you have helped us tell, and excited to hear what comes next. Thank you very much, and enjoy the evening.
Mayor, thank you so very much. We certainly appreciate you coming out. And you know, we got so many listeners in Moose Jaw as well. I think back to the flea market days. We used to have one that would call in all the time just to visit, Cyril. And I don't know if Cyril is still around, but if he's watching television, good evening, Cyril. To introduce our next CKRM icon, please welcome our weekend host, the master of the All Request and Dedication show. If you can't think of a title and you only know a few words, this guy will definitely tell you what the title of the song is. He started at 620 CKRM, well, back then it was 980. Back in 1979, he was with us until 1983, and then he returned for a second go-around in 2010. 2011, he says. Would you please welcome Ray Allen?
Oh my, is this thing working? Thank you, Cody. What a pleasure it is to be here tonight. I haven't seen so many people, Jeff, dressed up like this since my last wedding. I'm telling you.
Was that your fourth?
What's that?
Your fourth?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right.
That. I can't remember. But anyway, it is a pleasure because I had a chance to work with your dad for over 4 years.
Yep.
The nicest person I ever met in my life as a program director. He was level-headed. He would never get mad. His door was always open. Not
Really?
At the radio station. At the radio station, he was very, very good.
Okay.
He could have got on to us for some of the stuff we did.
Right.
But your dad was always there, and, you know, his door was always open. We had our jock meetings every Wednesday, and it was a fun time. But, you know, I wanted to work for your dad back in the early days and of CKRM when he first came there. And I ended up going to CKCK to do the all-night show because Dave Bass was coming over to RM, and I knew him, and he told me to come and talk to Fred. I did. I got the job. 2 weeks after I got on at CK, I handed in my resignation. Who did I want to work for? Fred King.
Wow.
That was the guy. So Doug said, well, you can't leave. We're paying you more money. So it wasn't until 79 when I finally got to RM and your dad. But your dad was very musical, and he had the band with Willie, King Country, Patty, and Aaron Giravel, and Mike, I believe, was a drummer.
Mike Fulton.
Yeah, Mike Fulton. And I had the pleasure of playing a couple of times with King Country when your dad was ill, and he called me up and he said, would you like to play bass? Now, he had some pretty unique instruments. The Mustang bass that he had, Fender bass, where is that bass these days?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that was Sheila Ann's bass, and who remembers Sheila Ann out here, one of the best entertainers to ever come out of our province. Yeah. And my dad bought it off Sheila Ann. I think it's a 73,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, and it hangs in my house, along with
the magic mandolin.
The mandolin.
Fred and Willie on the flea market, they sang to all the listeners who had birthdays, anniversaries,
divorces.
It didn't matter what it was, you know.
They sang it all, and it was just part of that charm of that show. And I'm looking at your boots right now. When you mentioned King Country, I'm thinking that because my mom and dad had the country and western store, you might have bought those snakeskin boots, Ray, from King Country back in the day. But yeah, they not only did that great, you know, radio thing to perfection, and the flea market was such a special show to this province. But then they took that show on the road. And part of it was King Country, the store, where my mom and dad, you know, and Willie would pop down now and then and meet people. But it was the band. And I think the band, King Country, traveled. Hands up if you saw King Country out in your community back in the day. I mean, they traveled everywhere. And they shook the people's hands. And they said hello. And they were just like they were on the radio. They were nice and charming and wonderful and funny. And my mom was talented and dressed to the nines. And they brought that show on the road to the province. And I think, you know, that is maybe not as much as, but a very important cog to what made CKRM important. And the number, it grew to #1 in those days was the band King Country.
Absolutely. And where they went, people wanted to meet Fred and Willie because they were key. Like your dad, he built that radio station. He truly did, because he wanted us to be all for one, one for all. We were the country team of RM 98. It was the greatest time in my broadcasting career. I left for a bit, but thank you to Willie Cole, over 15 years ago now, brought me back, and I love every weekend or every chance I get on the air.
Yeah.
Because your dad did that.
Well,
and
Willie,
he was a fabulous human being. He was a nice guy.
So I'm fortunate enough now to work in broadcasting as well. I'm at Check TV in Victoria, and I work with Ed Bain, who wants to say a huge hi to everyone. Perhaps the most talented broadcaster currently in the country and most wonderful person. And Ed wanted to make sure that I said hi to everyone. But you mentioned Willie hiring you back. And a lot of people say, how did you get into broadcasting? And of course, it's not broadcasting school. It's nepotism. Yeah. I got in through nepotism. But it wasn't exactly nepotism. It was also Willie, who was in the band. And I said, I'm going to die as an electrician. I was the shittiest electrician you will ever see. Yeah. And that's what I was taking. I was going to be an electrician. And Willie said, come work at CKRM. So I owe my career a lot of friendship, a lot of hockey stories, just a lot of family dinners to Willie. So thank you. Who stole the Kishka?
You know, when I look at you, I see your dad. I totally do. You know,
What's that?
you remind me so much of him. Like I said, he was so laid back for us.
Yeah.
He was just the perfect person. He would let us come into his office. You know, like not talking radio. If we had a bad love life, he would want to hear about it. Or Willie and Fred on the flea market, they'd be in a commercial break. Raylon, come over here. Yeah. What's happening? You know, and they would, we had
it was
so
a nice
much
guy,
fun.
and he loved hanging around. And by the way, I just want to, go back a little bit and congratulate the 9, legends and the 10 builders. And because of the nepotism / friendship with Willie, I worked with each and every one of those 19 people, and I'm so proud of that. I look out at all. I look out at the sales table over there. Bunch of bloody legends over there. Bob and Les and Ronnie, and I don't want to miss anyone, and Karen. Karen Broderick, by the way, the only female that's been recognized here tonight, came up from California. A huge hand for Karen, who was instrumental for many years in running that station. And I know Jason Hushy's here tonight, and his dad, John, was a big part of it as well. But the man I want to talk about, because I think that without him, the corral of talent wouldn't have been put together, and that is George Gallagher.
Oh, yes.
George Gallagher called my dad and hired him out of Thunder Bay in 70. Me and Colin were talking about this later. They were 72. We're 73. And brought him out here. And not only was he an amazing boss, and of course, George could take a gag back in those days. He called him Tight George on the air. Like, who else can call their boss?
Tight George.
Tight George. But he brought George out. He had Moon Mull Revere out here. He brought Willie Cole out here. He brought the important cogs that put that station together. So if you don't mind, a big hand for George Gallagher, his wife Doreen, that lovely family. They really were a huge part of why CKRM enjoyed the successes they did for many decades.
Well, I'll tell you, it is really a pleasure to see you. I think I haven't seen you in over 40 years. That's a long time,
You look
Jeff.
the same, Ray.
Well, that's
You
good.
look the same.
Your dad used to call himself the old man from the mountain.
He did, yeah.
And Fred always had one saying when he was on the air doing his show, when he'd do the hour before I'd come on, if the wind was calm, he called it Callum.
Callum, that's
how
right.
I remember
He did,
Fred
yeah,
King.
yeah.
The wind is Callum. It's the old man from the mountain. I'm coming home. Ray's up next.
I want to get one more word in, and that's to my two great friends, Colin Lovequist and Perry Nias. Ever since I left the station, and I've been on Vancouver Island for 26 years, those boys have kept in touch, have kept me feeling part of what's going on. So love you guys. Thank you so much for always thinking about the King family.
Well, Jeff, on behalf of Harvard, in honor of your late dad, Fred King, it is so nice to see you again. Thank you so much.
Great seeing all you folks. Honestly, it is.
Honoring 620 CKRM builders. George Gallagher, owner 1970 to 1981. John Hushy, general manager 1970 to 2002.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by saying I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person to celebrate such a remarkable milestone. On behalf of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, congratulations to everyone at 620 CKRM on 100 incredible years. Reaching a century of serving the people of Saskatchewan is an extraordinary achievement and one that deserves to be celebrated. For generations, 620 CKRM has been much more than a radio station. It's been the voice of Rider Nation, bringing every touchdown, every comeback, and every unforgettable championship moment into the homes, cabins, businesses, tractors, and trucks of countless communities across our great province. I grew up in one of those small communities. In Foam Lake, my love of this football team was developed by listening to the broadcasts and post-game shows on 620 CKRM. And I'm certainly not alone. Countless Rider fans across this province had their fandom grow through listening to 620 CKRM's coverage of the province's team. The unwavering support of our football club over the decades has helped strengthen the bond between the team and our fans, your listeners. And for that, we are truly grateful. I'd like to congratulate and thank Paul and the entire Hill family and everyone at Harvard Media for your commitment to preserving legacy while continuing to innovate for the future. To everyone celebrating tonight, congratulations. Enjoy this special evening. Take pride in everything that's been accomplished. And thank you for telling our stories for almost half of a century of storytelling at 620 CKRM.
What a connection we have with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And of course, there's a game coming up next week. All right, so many great stories that we've heard, and I hope that you're ready for another chapter because this one's going to be good too. But first off, I'd like to thank the gold sponsors that have been a huge part of this, and the fellow that's sitting on stage has been a huge part of a lot of these gold sponsors' life. Connexus Arts Center, AccessNow TV, Quality Tire, YAC Auctions, Heartland Livestock Services Yorkton, Mac Auction Company, and Souls Harbor Rescue Mission. Now, let's find out what is going on the main stage as we introduce yet another one of our CKRM icons. Please welcome my co-host and a guy who truly we have a lot of laughs, a lot of them on air and a lot of them behind the scenes. He's the king of the puns. Good morning, Saskatchewans, Cody Glyden.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Certainly appreciate that. With Perry Nias now, the legendary Perry Nias of the Nias Country Drive, the Homeward Hustle. Have a nice day. Now, here we are, Perry. We're in this beautiful facility here, the Connexus Arts Center, formerly called the Saskatchewan Centre of the Arts. Perry, you have hosted a lot of shows. You've been to a lot of concerts here over the years. You got to tell one of your famous stories.
Well, I have a pile of stories, but tonight might end up being the best of them all. What a night tonight, just to see these wonderful, wonderful people. But probably one of my favorite stories of all time happened early in my run on CKRM. Ronnie Millsap was playing here. Ronnie was big in the 80s. For those people that don't remember Ronnie Millsap, he was the Taylor Swift of his day. He was big. So we did it up right. We had a contest to come see Ronnie Millsap. Limousine, beautiful steak dinner, and then we arrived. And part of the deal was that this winning couple would get to meet Ronnie Millsap and take a picture with Ronnie. So right behind this curtain here, behind the cameraman, there's a long, long hallway that leads to the green room. So as we arrived, Ronnie was there waiting for us, and he looked fantastic. Hair slicked back, his big, thick, dark glasses, beautiful suit. And these winners are so excited, like they're over the moon. And keep in mind, in that day, we didn't have social media, anything. A lot of people really didn't know anything about these artists that they loved, just that they loved Smoky Mountain Rain and all the great music that they played. I'll never forget this as long as I live. So Ronnie was so gracious. I said, you know, Ronnie, I'm from CKRM. Here's our winners. I introduced them. Got the picture taken, and no sooner do we take the picture, but this lady pulls out an envelope and starts showing pictures to Ronnie Millsap. Holy Ronnie, I never saw a guy more gracious in all my life. He's handing these pictures to Ronnie, and he's commenting on the pictures. She's saying, this is in front of the Grand Ole Opry. Isn't that a picture? That is absolutely beautiful. So we go through the whole process, 3-4 pictures, and the last one is a picture on this tour, and she's in front of Ronnie Millsap's house, talking about his house and the paint and the trees. And he's so great. What a gem he was. He was not going to take that moment from these winners no matter what. So out we come, right back here, front row, dead center, in the middle, and we're all excited for the show. The host comes on. Here's Ronnie Millsap. He takes about 4 or 5 steps onto the stage here, and she literally screams out to the audience, "He's blind!" And she wants to leave. She gets up. She's so embarrassed, and Ronnie comes onto the stage, and I'll never forget it. He goes, well, maybe I couldn't see the pictures, but the way you described them, they must have been beautiful. Ronnie Millsap, what a gem he was.
When we're done here tonight, pull Perry aside and ask him about the Mavericks. The Mavericks out at Country Thunder, Saskatchewan.
I don't think we can
That's
tell
a
that
story
story
for later on, but I want to ask you, Perry, what does radio mean to you? You've been at it now for a long time. What does it mean to you?
Well, I've been doing it for 44 years. What it means to me is what it means to people, Cody. So this is my favorite story of all time. So I'd finished up my show one day, and there was a card at the station, and I opened it up just like once in a while we would. But this one was different. This lady started the card, something like this: Dear Perry, on the worst day of my life, you made me smile and laugh. And then I started to read the letter, and it was one of the most emotional things I ever experienced. So I'll try to tell this story without getting too emotional, but I'll never forget it as long as I live. So I started to read the letter. And she said, Perry, I was in the cancer clinic, and I just had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And the doctor and nurse had left the room. And she said, for whatever reason, they had the radio on. And you happened to be on the radio. And in the note, she says, you and another goofball made me snicker and laugh. And I thought, on the worst day of my life, if I could still smile, I could go on and try. So the story doesn't end there. I tried very hard to find out who it was. The name was written there, but I couldn't find her. I tried to look at the last name to see if there was somebody else. So about a year went by. I'm on location on Albert Street at Bronco's Western Outfitters with Bronco Bob. And through the door comes this couple, and you can tell right away the lady is very emotional, upset. She comes right towards me. My first reaction is, how can I help? And she says, Perry, I always wanted to meet you. Do you remember getting a card? And I knew right away who it was. And to hear the story, again, with a little more detail in person, was the most powerful experience I ever experienced. I didn't say a word. I just listened for probably 10 minutes. And then we laughed a little bit, cried a lot, told a few jokes, and I never saw her again. And I still have that card in my desk today. That's my favorite story. So my point is, what radio can do for people is what I love about it.
It connects, it connects. Okay, well, we got to wrap it up here, but before we do, what a lot of people don't know is when I first got hired at CKRM back in 2017, Perry and I were everywhere on location all across Saskatchewan, and whenever we were done a remote, we'd always go for ice cream after. We'd always find the local ice cream joint. Our favorite, I think, is Momart so far, hey?
Yeah, that's the best.
Momart's been about the best. And anyway, I thought, well, here we are. This isn't exactly a remote, but we are on location. And I thought, well, we got to finish our day off with a little bit of ice cream. This looks like we're going to go play bingo. This looks like a bingo bag. But here we are inside. You've been a good boy.
God.
Here's your ice cream sandwich.
Look at that, hey? That's a good friend. Normally we'd be in Kennedy today, but we didn't get to go to Momart.
We would have been going to the Kennedy Rodeo today. Tanya Cherry was on location, our evening host. She did a fantastic job, but on our way back, if it was Perry and I, we'd be stopping at Momart. So ladies and gentlemen,
we're going to have an ice cream.
Would you please welcome, and please big round of applause for Mr. Perry Nias.
Honoring 620 CKRM builders. Les Schuster, General Manager, 1980 to 2010. Tom Stasison, Director of Marketing and Promotions, 1980 to 2020.
Well, what about these stories that we're hearing? So thank you again, Perry Nias, Cody Glyden, thank you. A celebration of CKRM's 100th anniversary doesn't just stop in this room tonight. Oh no. We know how much our listeners like to have a good time, and so we're inviting you tonight to something that's very, very special. Get ready for a memorable night with 620 CKRM's Heartstrings and Honky Tonks. It's going to take place on Monday, September 21st at Dark Hall. And it isn't just a concert. It's an electric atmosphere that mixes the Bluebird Cafe with the power of the Ryman. And it's going to be right here in Regina, in Saskatchewan, for one night only. Michelle Wright, the Johnner Brothers, Kelsey Kulik, Clayton Bellamy, Dan Davidson, and Evan Baxter are going to be performing on the stage. And it also will be broadcast that evening live on 620 CKRM with, of all things, live commercials. For details and tickets, visit our website events page at 620ckrm.com, and that's heartstrings and honkytonks.com as well. To introduce our next CKRM icon, please welcome CKRM's Ag News Director and host of Sask Ag Today, Ryan Young.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Good evening, everybody.
Good
How are we enjoying tonight so far? Good to hear. That's awesome. Now, much like all of our 620 CKRM icons, they really don't need any introduction. And in this particular icon's case, he also doesn't need one either, but I'm going to do one anyway. So this man is synonymous with agricultural journalism, not only in Saskatchewan, but also across Canada as well. Whether it's the good times, bad times, the in-between times, he has covered it all. He's been with CKRM from 1982 to 2023, when he decided to hang him up and train some unknown farm kid southeast of Kelvington. That's me. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Jim Smalley.
Thank you.
Jim, you're looking fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. But you have to excuse me for a minute. I want to do two things. Is this thing on?
Jim, you got to put it closer to your mouth.
Yeah. See, in our business, you're not even allowed to touch the microphone. It's on a stand, and you might move the stand, but you never touch the microphone. So every event I've gone to as MC at APAS or running Agribition's grain show, I tap the mic and I blow in it and I say, is this thing on? Thanks.
I was kind of hoping the same thing too. Like, is this thing on? But it's on, so we're good.
Yeah, it's working. You can tell. What a beautiful location.
So before we begin, Jim, you want to thank a few people.
I have three big thank yous I want to throw out there. The first one goes to Paul Hill and his family. It has been a beautiful, wonderful opportunity. Radio is fun. You can have fun with it. That's what I tell every newbie that starts. Enjoy it. You don't get paid huge sums of money, although sometimes you can, but enjoy it. I have had a saying many years. I come from the farm. I've seen real work. This is not real work. I come from the farm. I've seen real work. So that's my saying. I tell that to all the newbies, and that's what I do. I'm a talker, as you can tell. I'm curious also. They would warn newbies when they come into the newsroom the first time. Watch out, Jim's curious. He'll ask you all about yourself and everything, and just be aware. It's not a problem, it's just Jim. So now I have 1,001 stories, so I'll try to keep this brief. I've interviewed and talked with every premier in Saskatchewan, from Alan Blakeney to Premier Scott Moe. But my big three thank yous, I said, Paul Hill, one, for the opportunity, but there's a second key part of that I want to thank Paul Hill for, and that is no interference in the newsroom. Remember, I work out of the newsroom. That's where I work, and there's never been any interference. You know, you hear in the States law all the time. There's, you know, government or political interference or business interference from owners in the news. We were never touched. We were allowed to tell it as we saw it. And that's freedom at its uppermost. It's wonderful. And that is a big thank you to Paul Hill. Second person I want to thank is my wife, my beautiful wife, who I met in Weyburn at the radio station. She's a broadcaster, so many people can't go home and talk about their business with their partner. I could. She knew the business, and so she could listen, commiserate, and also she looked after me. She fed me, looked after me. You have to understand, I've told when she was worried about the kids coming home after they'd left and they came back for a few months. Forget them. They're adults. I'm the baby. And, you know, I did the morning news run. I did open line show. I did morning news run. So I did lots of shifts, and I loved working weekend shifts news. And guess who was up at 5 in the morning to feed me? My wife. She's looked after me immensely. It's enabled my career to be as enjoyable and as good as it is. So I want to thank you, Penny. Here she is recording you guys at my request with Mike. Now, the third one I want to thank is Brad Bazin. Brad is the one who did all the Icon interviews. He did a superb job. I've watched all 9, and they are superb. They're so well done. I just can't get over his insight into all of us. Because remember, he's interviewing interviewers. That's not an easy job, right? That's not easy. You got to be aware of what they are and where they're coming from. Like I said, I've talked with every premier for prime ministers. I covered a Pierre Trudeau news conference, Brian Mulroney, Jean Chrétien. I was at one of the schools here talking while we're waiting for him to go on. Paul Martin, and also visit in my studios from Justin Trudeau. I've also became, it's hard to believe because we took a long time to get together, but Jerry Ritz and I feel, became friends. He was the man who was the Minister of Agriculture. And it's a great relationship. You know, there's others. British Prime Minister James Callaghan, French President Francois Mitterrand. I have a picture of his airplane. He came in on the fastest jet ever made, the Concorde. I actually took home footage of the Concorde taking off. There was British Prime Minister James Callaghan. He just loved farming, so he came here to look at farms, and we were prohibited from talking to him. So I found myself on the end of a cultivator, just in the area that he was walking, and he walked up and started asking me about it, what it was worth, and so I could, what it was, and so I could tell him what it was and what it was for, and about our farming. So I was the one. Prince Philip. Prince Philip was an interesting character. He did not suffer fools lightly, I'll tell you. My goodness. He had a big news conference because he had to. He was opening Agribition in '78, and he didn't want to hold a news conference. And you could tell because he took numerous questions, but he gave 2-word answers. As you were going through the barns, did anything strike you? And he of course, replied, I should hope nothing struck me. Yeah. And this 23-year-old asked him, later on I realized it was a dumb question. It was storming outside at Agribition, which is, you know, it usually is at Agribition. I had a saying, the rainiest week of the year is Farm Progress Show, the hottest week is Exhibition Week, and the coldest week is Agribition Week. That was kind of an opinion that I held for many years, and the exception makes the rule. The thing about Prince Philip, my question was, what do you think of the storm? It's storming. We were just begging to get a clip that we could use on air. And by the way, I used this one. And he said, it's snow. Okay, thanks so much for another clip. I also used, by the way, the one, I should hope nothing struck me. I used that on the air. That's how we were hunting so badly for clips. But then I later got a chance to talk to Scotland. His bodyguards came up into the booth where I was announcing him opening Agribition. And then his bodyguard, I said, I want to do an interview. I've got to do an interview. Scotland Yard doesn't do interviews. What do you want to know? And I told him, I want to know this, this, and this. And he told me the answers. I said, well, I want this on tape. Scotland Yard doesn't do interviews. So he gave me all the answers. And he told me that Prince Philip, to keep his wings up with his airplane in the jet they flew, you know, private jet, he flew over the pole. Yeah, right. He's seen snow before. You know, so what? It's storming. Let's see. I've covered, as I said, Prince Philip, the Queen's walkabout at the Saskatchewan legislature. And at 19, I interviewed the former Saskatchewan Premier T.C. Douglas. He, of course, was voted #1 Canadian in a poll many years ago. I've had a chance to talk with, let's see here, Bobby Hull, Gordie Howe, Ken Dryden. I even showed him my CKRM ring. I couldn't believe Ken Dryden wanted to see my CKRM 25-year ring. It's a beautiful gold ring with a couple diamonds in it. But Ken Dryden wanted to see it. Remember, this is a guy who won like 6 Stanley Cups in 8 years or something like that. It's unbelievable, his record. Now, Michelle Wright. I had a great line from her. I introduced myself in the hallway at CKRM, And I said, you know, hi, I'm Jim Smalley. He says, good enough, smart enough, and doggone, and I said, yes, that's right, and doggone it, people like me. There's a character called Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live, and those were his trademark lines. And she knew them. So I thought it was, and I had watched Saturday Night Live, so I thought that was impressive. Buffy St. Marie. One of my most, this is one of the stories I love to talk about. Mikhail Gorbachev. I once got into a talking match with a friend of mine, and he had, you know, one name, and I gave him a premier's name, and he had another name, and I had a prime minister's name, another name. I think it was Marina Oswald, the widow of Lee Harvey Oswald, and I said Mikhail Gorbachev, and he said, oh, I'll never argue with Jim. Because Mikhail Gorbachev held a news conference in Regina. Now remember, he was the president of the USSR before it folded. Now he was here to open a tractor factory, if you can imagine, and he was the agriculture secretary. He was not the president yet, but we all knew he was the next president of the USSR. Now, I'm getting a memo here.
Your wife's telling you, hey.
How are we doing time-wise? I knew I had 10 minutes, folks. I knew I had 10 minutes. And I haven't got to my best story. Do you want to hear my best story?
Yeah, this is just the warm-up.
My very best story. Okay, this will take a few minutes. I'll be as fast and as brief as I can. My very best story. Okay, so here I am. I'm a cub reporter, and I'm supposed to go down and cover a by-election in Estevan, Saskatchewan. Now, I've worked all day. It's 5 o'clock. It's a cold November day. I'm wearing city clothes. So we go out to the airport, Gordon Vasuti, CKTV's cameraman, Gordon Vasuti, the reporter, and me. So I'm supposed to go down to Estevan. We charter a plane, and as we're going down to Estevan, the pilot got his map out on his lap, and he's looking at it. He's following the highway straight down. He's dipping the wings to check the elevator. Yeah, okay. And so we come in, and it's a by-election for, if you can imagine, Grant Devine, Ralph Goodale, and Jack Chapman of the NDP. You know, like that's the three people. Okay, so we come into Estevan, and it's getting dark in November, and we come around, and he says, hold on. We drop 50 feet and land, just like that. Okay, that's great. And we were cold. He couldn't get the heater working, so we're cold. So now we get off the plane, and we go down into Estevan. We do our stories. It runs late. It runs very late. And so we get a ride out to the airport. And here we are out at the airport, and beside the airplane is, of course, the pilot, and he's got a towel, and he's rubbing the wing, and there's a tractor beside it. And the first thing he says, and it's after 12 midnight, okay? This is how late it is. And he's rubbing with the towel on the aircraft. And the first thing he says, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the heater going. Couldn't get it fixed. Okay, my question is, why is the tractor here? Oh, battery's dead. We need a boost. We have to get a boost to get the... Ooh, okay. Okay. And what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, everything looks dry to me. He says, oh, we're rubbing the wing with the towel. Why? He says, oh, it's got just enough moisture in the air. Enough moisture. You get up 50 feet, it freezes, and you go down like a stone. Okay, I'm thinking 2 hours by car, 1 hour by plane. 2 hours by car, 1 hour by plane. How do I get to town to get a ride? Maybe Canadian Press? I don't know. Anyway, so guess after working all day and all night, guess who starts rubbing an airplane with a spare towel? A wing. And I'm rubbing, because I'm not going down 50 feet. And so that's that. Now, guess who won the by-election? It wasn't Ralph.
Jim?
Wasn't Ralph. Wasn't Ralph. It was not Grant Devine. It was Jack Chapman of the NDP. You know, I'm flabbergasted. But that was that by-election, that time. But so now my wife will tell you how it was when I climbed into bed at 2 in the morning. I was an icicle. I was an icicle. That's my very best story.
Now, Jim, it's well established you've covered a lot of things over the years. From prominent people, as you mentioned, to various events like Agribition, Farm Progress Show, now Canada's Farm Show, and so on and so forth. But I'm curious to know, what was your favorite part of your broadcasting career?
Well, I covered my first murder trial at 21, the Sidley Church Supper murder trial. I had coffee with Colin and Joanne Thatcher years before the murder. And
Jim, it's a lighthearted question, not a serious one.
Well, just following my notes here.
I know you've written a copious amount of notes.
Okay, page 2. Now, you know, my legacy, I want that I was honest and fair. I loved radio, I loved Saskatchewan, and I want my legacy to be that I was honest and fair. I tried to tell both sides of the story. There's always two sides to every story, and you learn that. I tried to tell both sides, and I had a few scoops along the way, everything from the Hall Commission report on rail line abandonment to one I was going to tell about getting the wheat board final payments. That was a big thing on the farm, to get what the final payments were. Everybody wanted to know in December. It's like a bonus check, and it's Christmas time, so everybody wants to know, what are the final payments? So I got them from an insider at the wheat board. He gave me the numbers, but he said, you can't use my name, you cannot say where you got it from. So I wrote a spec story. And where I'm going with this is, Ralph Goodale was the egg minister or the wheat board minister, and I was talking to Ralph in an interview doing something. Ralph, what do you think of these speculation numbers? And his comments were deadpan to me. Jim, everyone knows if you're speculating, you know the numbers. I love that. Oh, if you're a history nut, I'll tell you one final note, and then I'll be quiet. If you're a history nut...
30 seconds.
Okay, the Regina Riot 1935. The Regina Riot 1935. I got very close to one of the defense attorney. He was a Supreme Court of Canada Chief Justice, Emmett Hall. And I would drive him to the airport here in Regina. I asked him, you said you're the defense attorney? How did you do in the prosecutions? Like, how did you do? He said, we started winning when they stopped prosecuting. So in other words, they didn't do. I also asked him, was it believed at that time that it is now that it was the police attacking the crowd? That... Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our 620 CKRM icon, Jim Smalley.
Honoring 620 CKRM builders. Ron Ulmer, Retail Sales Manager, 1984 to 2013. Bob Polowitz, Retail Sales Manager, 1986 to 2010.
To the Connexus Arts Center staff, no more coffee for Jim. He's cut off. Just got a call from the mayor of Corning, Saskatchewan. They just got the statue polished in the town square of Jim Smalley, so pigeons. Okay. To introduce our next 620 CKRM icon, please welcome the sports director of CKRM and the voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders, Dave Thomas.
Thank you very much, Cody. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. What a night. My honor now to recognize the icon, a gentleman that I looked up to for a number of years and got some great advice along the way to be able to do what I. He joined Harvard and CKRM as the voice of the Regina Rams, and then of course did sidelines for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. After a brief stint with the Prince Albert Raiders, where I loved to listen to him on the bounce on 900 CKBI, he came back home to CKRM, a place that he was meant to be. He was named the voice of the Regina Pats, and then later in 1998 would add to his portfolio as the voice of the Saskatchewan Cup, a World Junior Hockey Championship. The pride of Milestone, Saskatchewan, no, we're not Yellowgrass, Mr. Rod Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
It's interesting because I close my eyes tonight and I hear that time that I was in the pasture in Grandpa's truck testing out the clutch on the big hill in the pasture. Didn't go well. I recall the time that we had to siphon the fuel from one vehicle to another because we weren't supposed to take the one. But the commonality is that in all of them, 620 CKRM was on. It's what was the soundtrack to all of those episodes that we grew up listening to. And I know that it was your soundtrack as well. What made you want to be part of that soundtrack and jump inside that box in our truck or in the combine or in the office, wherever we were?
I don't know if anything made me want to do it. It's just I don't ever remember wanting to do anything else. They played that clip earlier. I mean, Willie was such a mentor. You know, Willie Cole is CKRM. Willie is, right? So I guess if you ask, growing up listening to Willie, he's so good. He is that guy, you know, that you hear on the air just as a little kid, and then I guess wanting to be on that station. I mean, I always loved sports, but I love country music too. That station is made for me. Yeah, I just love it.
When I started out doing football, I was a hockey guy first, very much like you. And I asked, after I really sucked one night, I'm like, what can I do to be better? And the mentor that I asked gave me the words of advice: do it like Rod. Tell the story, be my eyes, share the excitement, just don't call out Moose Jaws much. When you hear those words and you got to be the eyes and the ears and the heartbeat of Rider Nation, what did it mean to you, and what did you try to bring across the radio?
Well, number one, you could have just called Jeff Courier, because I got all that from Jeff, my predecessor. And his thing was always, the star of the broadcast is the game. Jeff always said that. So whether it wasn't just about football, it was about the Pats too. So just set the scene, you know. And, you know, my dad always said there's nothing like being at the game, even though he loved listening to me on the radio. But I would always try and talk about, you know, the smell of the popcorn and the sight of the pep band, and just set the scene for everybody that couldn't be there, because I was on the tractor, I was in the truck, just like all of these people. So I just thought, if I was sitting out there, what would I like to hear? And it's funny, because one day, Perry won't mind me saying this, I don't think, but he was complaining about our workload. And I'm like, Perry, we're both from the farm. This ain't work. He's like, yeah, you're right. It was not, my brother's mad because he says I never worked a day in my life, and I haven't. You know, it's been so much fun. It still is.
I often ask athletes your welcome to moment. Did you have a welcome to the Western Hockey League, a welcome to the CFL?
Well, the WHL, not really, but CFL was, because I was always so close to the players, and I didn't realize how rare that was. I was their age, right? So one night, you know, we went to Toronto, and the day before the game, Jeremy was on that team. We had a 2-hour walkthrough. The 2-hour walkthrough the day before the game. I almost feel like the guys were in pads, and the players were bitching about it. And I said it on the air. We were getting our ass kicked. It was 99. We were 3-15. And I said, some of the players were mad that we had this 2-hour walkthrough yesterday, full practice. I didn't think anything of it. It was true. And we came home, and I got called into a meeting. It was always a meeting. And Cal Murphy and Al Ford were in there, and if you knew Cal, he was like, his neck was shaking. He was like, who told you that? Who was pissed off? And I said, I can't tell you that, Cal. And Rashovich and who? Because he knew that we were tight. I said, I'm not telling you. He threw a chair over my head. Cal did. And Al Ford walked by, and Al goes, don't worry, his bark is worse than his bite. But that was like, holy shit, this ain't Milestone Sask anymore. And it was Rich Young, J.O., by the way, that you remember Rich? The Potato Man. Yeah, that's who it was.
Being the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I'm slowly learning that you have a unique connection between Rider Nation and the team. You can be stopped at various places. For example, I was at a bakery with my kids after we had been here for 3 weeks, and handed a play that they wanted me to hand to Mark Mueller because they thought it would work really well, 1st and 10. Mark Mueller will tell you the only problem was there were 11, not 12 players on the field on this play, so it didn't work out so well. But man, I remember seeing Rod Peterson walk in to a place in Saskatoon during Rough Rider training camp, and it was, there's Rod Peterson. Instantaneous silence as everyone just kind of gravitated towards you. Did you feel that at all?
Not at all. Where was that?
I believe you, no, we can't get into that. That's classified. But in all honesty, you are one of the people that's associated with the team all the time. Did you feel that? Because that can have a pressure, right?
It's a lot of pressure. You said you were going to ask me what's it like to be voice of the Riders, and I wanted to think about that. It's good when they're winning. Right? But I'll tell you this thing with Mueller, like last summer, we did the Ryder Alumni Golf at Aspen Links. And the guy that owns, I don't mind saying it, the guy that owns that golf course, Yonke, good guy. But he says, what do you think about the Riders' play calling? I'm like, offensive play calling. I said, I feel like you want to tell me what you think it is. And he goes, well, I think we should run the ball more. I played for the Rams in 1952 and blah, 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 blah. Can you get this to Mark Mueller? Same thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, buddy, he's the best offensive coordinator in the CFL. Maybe take your resume down there. You know, so I don't know. God bless you. It gets a little old. You know, there's that. Yeah. When, you know, everybody thinks they can do better. And I'm like, you got the best team in the league. What do you know what I mean?
The legends that we've heard from tonight, and if you close your eyes, like I say, you can be transported back in time to a moment. Whether it's Willie Cole, and I got to meet tonight, hosting the flea market. Whether it's Lauren Harrison or Mr. Smalley or Perry Nias or Colin Lovequist or Rod Peterson. When you hear that you're the voice track to someone's youth, to someone growing up, what is your reaction to that?
I'm grateful. I mean, grateful to Willie for hiring me, and I know you're going to ask, because I do have a few thank yous that I want to throw out, but I'm just glad to have been a part of it. Like, when we did that interview with Brad, he kept asking me, did you know how big a deal it was? I'm like, buddy, I'm from here. I knew it every single day, how big a deal it is to call these games and for the Riders and the Pats and the Rams and do the sports. Like, I appreciated it every single day. I'm that guy. Like, I knew how big a deal it was. It was a big a deal for me. You know what I mean? So I just really, really enjoyed the job. It was fun. And it was like a service, you know, like when the blackout happened in 2007 at Taylor Field, I remember Morris Delorme, our producer, was like, what do you want to do? Play music? I said, I kind of think we need to stay on the air here. Because I don't know how long this is going to last, or people don't know what to do. So I had a BlackBerry, and I pulled that up and went on the air for an hour and brought in, you know, Richie Hall. It was, you know, probably you all were there. And I just felt like it was a service to people. Calling these games was more for them than us, you know what I mean? We're just, you know what it's like. You probably feel the exact same way.
Yes. You're not, I wasn't told there was any questions here.
Yeah.
I do want to send just a quick shout out to some sponsors. I know there's a ton of sponsors that make this happen, allow us to do what we do and make happen. And again, we get to represent their brand a lot of the times. And the one that I'll never forget was shout out, I don't know if the Avonlea folks are here tonight, but the Avonlea car dealer had to talk my grandfather out of purchasing a new vehicle because he was convinced when the switch was being made from 980 to 620, he had to get a new vehicle. So very upstanding that they would take that upon themselves and do that. So
that's funny. That was a hard one to get over, man. That was a big switch.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? It takes a lot of people. It takes an army to allow us to do what we do. And again, there's so many of our great teammates that have put on this night tonight. I know you have a number that you wanted to thank.
Well, I hadn't really thought about it until this week because I'm living in Moose Jaw. It's a great town in the summer. And
whoa, hold on. Did you get hit in the head?
I can't.
It's not what you said on the air.
I'm shocked they even let me in that town. I had to go around and kiss everybody's ass. But there's a guy that works for the Millers, Carl, and he says to me the other night, he goes, when you get up there on stage, you got to thank me. And I'm like, buddy, I've known you for 5 minutes, man. Like, there's a lot of people that go a long ways back. And Dave, I'm not gonna pull a Scott Schultz here and be here for 3 hours, but I was on the radio, I shit you not, in Amarillo, Texas this week with my buddy Kenny Nagunst, 806 Sports Radio. They knew about this thing there. And he said, do you remember your first producer? Because he said, congrats on this Hall of Fame. It's a big deal, the icon. I said, I do. His name's Mike Larson. In a million years, I didn't think Mike Larson would be here tonight, but he is. Mike, would you stand up for a second? Give us a wave. Mike Larson. Woo! When I was doing Rams games at night, so I was thinking of all these people. I would think all the icons, at least I'll speak only for myself. I mean, all these people put us on the air. Mike was just the first guy for me. But Chris Lipp is here too. Chris, you might as well wave. He's here, right there. I mentioned Morris, the Rod Weeder, Delorme, Nevin Chamney, all those, Mosh, and I will forget somebody, but the producers, Daniel McIsaac's here from Costa Rica, for God's sakes. The producers, the commercial writers, Marilyn Kirkby's here, like Lynn. We were such a team, and I assume they still are. All these sales guys that we made rich. Right, Bob knows. It was such a huge family, so coming to work every day was so much fun. So I just want to say thanks to all those people that put us on the air, because it feels like they should all be up here too, you know?
The pride of Milestone, Saskatchewan, ladies and gentlemen, CKRM icon, Mr. Rod Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Honoring 620 CKRM builders. Jason Hushy, General Manager 1985 to 2025. Karen President of Operations 1986 to 2025.
All right. Well, this has been a pretty electrifying. See how we're building? We're building. And again, it's so good to see some of the folks here that have gone away, and it's nice to have you back in Saskatchewan from wherever you've traveled. Here's something else that's going to be very interesting for anybody who likes to sit on the deck this summer, and maybe there will be an exclusive 620 CKRM Centennial Lager available in limited quantities, and it's coming soon. So maybe just hold off rushing out to your favorite store tomorrow when you're headed to the lake. Listen to 620 CKRM when and where it will be released. Cheers to 100 years. I was hoping someone would raise a glass there, but that's okay. That was sort of a, whatever. We're rolling right along. And to introduce our next CKRM icon, please welcome the head of news with Harvard Media, Kristen Wood.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Gloria. It is my absolute pleasure to sit next to this icon, the incomparable Lorne Harrison, and what he's contributed to Saskatchewan broadcasting and the broadcasting landscape in general. He's touched so many things, from Riders broadcast to the Harrison line, news, just immeasurable contribution. So it is such a pleasure to sit here with you tonight. He's our most seasoned icon of the night, too. Remember, you did want me to say that.
Yes. I'm 88 years old and I still have it.
Yes, yes.
The only problem is I can't remember where I put it. My brain says to me, Lorne, you're 25. And my body says to me, Lorne, your mind is an idiot.
Who knew that you were a stand-up comedian, too? And with all of the other skills that you have and all the other contributions you have, you are a stand-up comedian, obviously. All right. Well, you logged almost 60 years on our airwaves in the hearts and homes of people across Saskatchewan. And at CKRM, we were lucky enough to have you for 17 of those years. When you look back and you see this crowd, you mentioned the microphone as we were coming up on stage. Anything, like, do you get a flood of memories? Is that how it feels?
What a great night this is. And thank you for coming out, those of you. I'm not going to give you a list of the people I interviewed. 8 Canadian prime ministers, 7 Saskatchewan premiers, Bing Crosby, Mr. Ellis. Do you know who Mr. Ellis was? That was the name of the Prime Minister of Canada. He was 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 the Prime Minister of Can that our hangman used to use. Even his family didn't know what his sideline was. Someone mentioned Prince Philip. I asked him once, I said, "Sir, is it true that an American tourist once asked you why you built Windsor Castle so close to the airport?" And he said, "It's absolutely true. Windsor Castle was built 1,000 years ago." And John Diefenbaker, I always, if I talked to him on the telephone in the office, I would end the conversation by saying, "Give him hell, John." He would say, "I understand you do that pretty well yourself." If you'll allow me to be a little personal, there are some thank yous I want to make at this time. I want to thank the late Merv Phillips, who gave a skinny kid from Kamsack at the age of 18 a place on his announced staff at CJGX in Yorkton. I want to thank the late Bill Cameron of CFQC Saskatoon, who taught me about broadcast journalism, and that lasted me for all of my working life. I want to thank the people responsible for naming me to this august body. I thought they'd probably forget me because I left the station over 25 years ago. I want to also thank some people who are very special to me. My dear wife, Velma. Last month, we celebrated our 67th anniversary. She has always been there. She's a great mom and a most enthusiastic grandma and great-grandma. And I found her in a radio station. I want to thank our children. They're not children. They're all here. Greg, who's 66. Laurie, who lives in Alberta but is here. She's 65. And the baby in our family, Paul, who is 58. I also want to thank each of my children for bringing Karen and Nigel and Dr. Deb to our family. I love them and cherish them very much. My grandchildren as well, they're not children. The youngest is 23. He taught high school here in Regina this past year. His brother is a master's in archival studies, and he works in Grand Prairie, Alberta. Owen, an engineer, he's here tonight from Alberta. He's a winner in every way. Just delighted to have him as a grandson. We're kind of like a medical clinic. Dr. Lisa is here. She's a granddaughter. She has worked for over 10 years in the emergency unit at the General Hospital, and she has kept her sanity, which is an amazing thing. I also want to thank Shannon, my granddaughter. She is here. Last week, she was running the Saskatoon Jazz Festival, and she brought Dr. Matt to our family. Matt is a psychiatrist. My friends tell me I'm lucky to have one. Finally, and not least, I'm grateful to the good Lord that I've lived long enough to see and love my 3 little great-granddaughters, ages 3, 4, and 5, 2 of them in Saskatoon, and 1 here in Regina. And finally, I'm going to wind up by stealing some words from the mortally ill baseball player Lou Gehrig many years ago in his farewell speech at Yankee Stadium, who said, "I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth."
Well, I'm not going to let you go that quickly. We'll let you get some applause, but stick with me. Clearly, along with interviewing countless celebrities, dignitaries, neighbors, friends, family means a lot to you, correct? That's
correct.
That's clear. Okay. Well, there is a plethora of audio clips that we could choose to listen to now to hear Lauren's famous interviews. But there's one that stood out to me when we were going through some of them, and I would like us to take a listen to that right now.
What is your name, young man?
Greg
Greg what?
Harrison.
Do you have any other names?
Well, this is my full name, Gregory Lauren Gerard Harrison.
And how old are you?
6.
This is October the 30th, 1966, the day before what day?
Halloween.
What are you going to do then?
Go out trick-or-treating.
And what is this little Mrs. name here? What is your name, dear?
Lori
Lori what?
Harrison.
Do you have any other names?
Ann.
Lori Ann Harrison?
Yeah.
And what are those things all over your face?
Chicken pox.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lauren Harrison. I can carry it.
Thank you.
Honoring 620 CKRM builders. Bruce Cowie, Vice President of Harvard Broadcasting, 2005 to 2021. Paul Hill, President of the Hill Group of Companies, 1981 to today.
Well, this is an exciting day. I can't believe that it's 100 years since CKRM went on the air. And all of you have participated and enhanced our connection with the audiences. And that's what you're really good at. You're basically good at not only connecting, but the responding to the needs of the audiences. So it's really been a tremendous history. And then the acquisition of the Rough Riders Broadcasting, becoming the radio of the Riders in the 80s was an incredible change that put the radio station at the center of sports for the province. Other sports, of course, hockey and other sports are also carried. In any event, the great personalities, Willie Cole, Fred King, country music, all the things that CKRM delivers better than anybody else. And the audience proves it. 620 on the Isle, of course, was a big move also. And I remember it was costly when I did it. But it was definitely the right decision, and it definitely gave us the reach of the whole province, really. So I want to congratulate all of you for connecting with the people that listen to us, and also for carrying on this legacy and doing it as well or better than anybody in the past.
One of my earliest retrievable memories is walking into my parents' farm kitchen in the middle of winter when the snow was blowing because we lived on a farm close to Milestone Mine, and the snow was roaring outside, and CKRM was on the radio. And then the winter turned to spring, and my dad would listen to it to get the farm markets and more weather. And then the summertime came, and my mother would take the transistor radio up to my dad in the combine, and he would be listening to CKRM.
Yeah.
So it's all throughout my life, and now here we are. We've lived all these many, many years. And so CKRM is woven into the fabric of our hearts and our families, and they are family.
And our own personal family history goes back to 1903 with my grandfather when he formed the company with two McKellen brothers who passed away in the 20s. But in any event, my father came back after serving in the U.S. Air Force. B-17s he flew. If you watch Masters from the Air, you know what he did. Came back in 1947 and carried on. I grew up with it, of course, in Regina, and I've lived with it all my life. So it's been part of our lives, and then it became even more a part of our life in 1981 when we acquired the station. We had already purchased the CKTV in 1976, so there was some synergy between the two. And of course, we moved the location over closer to the core, and new facilities and first-class capabilities to continue on delivering and connecting with the people of Saskatchewan. I also want legacy with our family in the province going back to 1903 is continued with Roseanne and Matthew. And Matthew, particularly in the case of the broadcast industry, is our successor in the family. So we know that Matthew is committed, loyal, loves CKRM, loves the voice of the riders, and we look forward to that continuing for another generation. We wish you well, and thank you for tuning in. We are with you in spirit, for sure.
And we'll be with you at the party.
Yes. Okay.
Party on.
Thank you so much, Paul Hill. I do want to make mention there is one other broadcaster here tonight, and it's so nice to have him. He's still broadcasting to this day. He was with 620 CKRM from 1972 to 1974. Please give a big round of applause for Wayne Mantika. Wayne Mantika is out here tonight. My mom was so excited to see Wayne Mantika. She goes, he looks exactly the way he does on TV. That's usually how it works. That's usually how it works. But we're down to our final icon, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get to this individual, we'd like to take a moment just to say a few thank yous, including our gold sponsors, Connexus Arts Center, AccessNow Television for broadcasting this tonight, Quality Tire, YAC Auctions, Heartland Livestock Services in Yorkton, Mac Auction Company, and Souls Harbor Rescue Mission. Also, a big round of applause to the Connexus Arts Center for hosting us tonight. Isn't this wonderful? To the 620 CKRM 100 Years in One Night Organizing Committee and the staff at Harvard Media. And to AccessNow Television for broadcasting tonight's event.
Oh, wait, there's a couple more thank yous. To everyone who's at home right now watching this great little program, and I hope that you've been having as many laughs as we have here, and that is to the folks in the AccessNow TV viewing list, viewership. So, hi everybody. Thank you to our dignitaries, the partners, the icons, and family members for sharing your greetings and messages tonight. And just a reminder, you can always phone the radio station and leave your messages. We have a line for you. And thank you just to everybody who made the night so special tonight. We've seen some great memories and people from the past and from the present, and some of our fans of the future. And there's one other group of people that I need to thank, and they are celebrating their own anniversary next year at 35 years of existence. Please thank our musical entertainment tonight, the 620 CKRM Saskatchewan Rough Rider Pep Band. And if you know how to play an instrument, they might just be looking for you, as a matter of fact. So they've actually been with CKRM since 2008 as part of our umbrella during Rider Games. And great, what would you say, ambassadors of the brand. So here we are. We've come to pretty close to the end. And to introduce our final icon, please welcome back Program Director of 620 CKRM, Brad Bazin.
Thank you very much, Cody and Gloria. Of course, I am with the truly iconic Willie Cole. First, Willie, I want to thank you for hiring me in 1990. I know a lot of people have said thank you, but thanks for doing that.
My pleasure.
You took a risk. Thanks a lot. Also, I see my current boss is still here, and he gave me some words of inspiration before the night started. He said, "Bazin, if this thing runs long, you're in a lot of trouble." And then he reminded me I'm still on probation. So what I want to do, Willie, is I had the honor of interviewing everyone that's taken the stage here tonight.
You did a great job,
well,
by the way.
It was an honor. So I've asked my questions. Willie, tell us a story.
Well, first of all, it's sure nice to be here before a captured audience. Everybody paid to be here. That's wonderful. Thank you very much, first of all, for this great honor and a special night. I've run into so doggone many people, but we have a problem. Every one of these bandits here that came up to be honored stole my material. I'm done. They took it all. You gotta think if Colin came up here and I said, I remember when I hired Colin, I said, Colin, you're gonna work evenings, but you gotta cut your hair. Because Colin's hair was down to here. Now he's lost his hair, but he's grown a beard. So it's gone the other way. Perry Nias, nicest guy you're ever gonna meet. I said, you know, hiring Perry Nias, that's good, but the only reason I'm hiring you, Perry, you come from Ceylon and you're a good hockey player. We needed hockey players on our station team. You're on. He was a good hockey player. I think his brother was better. And then I take a look at Rod Peterson here tonight. I know his mom and dad really well. And I know when Rod came in, he would speak into a tape recorder and practice doing play-by-play. And when he came in, well, we hired him, and he thought, here's a rook who's going to come in. And as the years went by, and he got into Pat's hockey, and of course, he's a natural for hockey, one of the greatest voices. Tremendous voice for sports in general. Then he came into my room, and he said, Willie, after the third time I hired him, he said, Willie, I have an opportunity here. I have an opportunity to be the play-by-play voice of the Riders. Should I take it? I said, Roddy. But he said, no, just let me tell you this, because if I take that job, will that hockey community and the Pats think that I'm leaving hockey? Because he also had a shot to go to the NHL where he should have been. And I'm surprised he never took it. I said, Rod, take the damn thing. It's a notch on your gun you're never going to forget. And wow, did he do a job of that one. He made it happen. And then as I go through the series of people up here, they take James Allen. What a voice. to be honored to have that voice as my morning newsman. When he said good morning, the world shook. Everybody shook. When he said the time, the temperature, and what the stories were, you believed everything because it was coming from God. He had the most incredible voice, and what a talent. And he and Manny were great buddies, and I know they got together, cars and a couple of pops, but they had a great time. They had a great life. And I look at all of these, you know, I'm probably going to miss some of the guys, but I want to look at the millionaire table over here. And all the sales guys over here. Les Schuster, Bob Polowatsky, Bob Polowitz, Ron Ulmer, and who else do we have back here in the sales area? That I missed, Jason Hushy, and yes, and your father died. That's where the money was. That's where the money was. What a hell of a job those guys did. And then this one little girl that's sitting at that table, Karen Broderick. I remember when Karen was sitting at that front desk answering a phone. That didn't end for her. Karen went to the absolute top of the ladder. Then some young kid was coming here from Eastern Canada, wanted to do a practicum in radio. His name was Dan Broderick. He had a pretty damn good voice. Yeah, he did. So we thought, well, we'll hire him on for a while. Next thing you know, hey, Dan, how'd you like the old-time dance party? Really? That old crap? I said, well, give it a chance. But then went into the drive-home show and took the numbers to the top with a voice like I have never heard. Didn't end there. And this is the great part of the story because there's always that carrot. He's so intellectual that he thought, hell, I'm never going to make any money here. I'm going to go join Bruce Axelson and the Capital Crew. And he went over there, not only climbing the ladder, became the COO, took it all over. Now he's the Dean of Hollywood Cadillac, and he's here tonight. Dan, great to see you, buddy. That was awesome. Man, did we sell a lot of hot dogs for free. You know, thinking about this, you know, over the years, all the on locations, all the remotes, I probably did as many as all these guys together. Capital is one of the biggest places that I went. And we'd always come and have the same people come by, have a dozen donuts and go. And I said, Dan, this isn't working so good. You know, we can't just serve hot dogs and donuts. So he said, okay, let's put in popcorn. And that took off. Wait a minute. That's Dolly Parton back there. Yeah, right there. Oh, that's just the two bald guys. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Thank you for coming today. Hey, I want to thank Rhonda and the and the band, the CKRM band, they're the best ambassadors we have here in this province and for the riders. Give them a round of applause. They're unbelievable. And as I look through these things, I think of 35 years of Big Country Talent Show. Ladies and gentlemen, that show was the biggest country talent show in Canada. In Canada. 4 national winners. No radio station in Canada came close to touching that. None. And we had them right here. We had talent here that could go on to do such major things. I'm sorry to see that it ended because Saskatchewan is loaded with some outstanding talent. And there's a guy sitting at that table right there, my table, Don Young, who got together to get the band together that backed every one of these people. This is the only talent show in the country where a live band backs an amateur act. These are all pros. They've played with them all. The best of the best. We gave them an opportunity. Donnie, thank you very much for all your many years. We respect that very much. You know what I think of the farm community, Jim Smalley? If I ever ask him a hello again, you get sucked into a vortex with Jimmy, you'll be here for 5 hours. Unbelievable. You know, in the morning, I used to go to work first thing. I get there 4:15, whatever. Then Jim would come in. I'd go and grab a coffee, and I'd walk by, and I'd say, oh, geez, I'm going to go the other way. If I say hi to Jim, I'm good. I have to go to the can or something because he'll suck you in for a conversation that just goes forever. Awesome, Jimmy. Great history. Great history, bud. Long, but great. But I appreciate that. You know, and agriculture is such a key component to our entire organization. Agriculture is everything in this province, and I mean everything. There are people here that have been in the ag business for a long time and have come, and we thank you for that. But we ran a program with a guy named Hartley Marcus in New Holland. I'm mentioning client names for free. Lawrence Hodel from Bronco Plumbing and Heating. We had the guys from Warner Industries and a number of places. We started the country cookout, the real country cookout, where we went right out to the field in the dust and the combine. Sometimes it was a little rainy, but we got the Holland grill, cooked the steaks and the kubasad. We had all the trimmings right there. And I want to thank these guys for their incredible support of this amazing promotion fact that we had. They were unbelievable. Thank you very much, everybody. That was tremendous. As we go through the years, you know, I think of so many things that have happened at RM over the years. Someone said, so what are some of the fun things you did? I thought about it. Well, there's a lot of them, really. Some things we can't speak of. But, you know, and I hate to bring up, you know, the tragedy we had recently with the bear up north. But I had the opportunity to wrestle an 800-pound television bear at the Canada Centre. I've got pictures of that. 800 pounds. All I had to do was push the bear off a stool. But he said, if the bear puts his paw on you and he gets you pinned to the ground, take these M&Ms and give them to him because he has no teeth and he loves M&Ms. Well, sure enough, I'm on the ground. He's pinned me. The air is going out of me. And I thought, I think I'm going to eat a few of these things here because I need some energy to get this guy off. But he pinned me for a couple of hours. But what dumb jock would wrestle a bear? Me. That wasn't the end of it. Yeah. Then they said, hey, you're going to go to the Canada Centre when they were in the old stadium. You're going to be in a sulky, and you're going to be in a sulky with an ostrich attached. And the way you steer an ostrich is not harness, it's a broom. Because all they do is you put the broom on that side of that eye, and he'll go that way. Go on this side, he'll go that way. The problem is, ostriches are notorious for diarrhea. So what they give you right off the bat is this massive bib. And away we go. And away it comes. That was the greasiest job I've ever had in my life. Let me tell you that. I'll never forget that. But you think of the dumb things you do in radio. Then they said, hey, let's go play donkey baseball. Hit the ball, jump on a donkey, and ride. Donkeys don't go where they're supposed to go. You got to get them to go. But that was great. I'm going to go back to just something else in this industry, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I had the good fortune of being around the CFL 3 years in Calgary, where it all started for me as a sideline host with Ken Ewens, the Calgary Stampeders, and CFCN. In Winnipeg, I covered the Bombers for a couple of years, then came back here, and I want to thank the Hill Company for getting the Saskatchewan Roughriders to RM. That made it the biggest boost to our station in its history. And in those 30 years, lots of good moments, lots of sad moments. Some of my best moments were being in Toronto to win the '89 Grey Cup. Lauren Harrison and I were in the hotel, and the guy who makes the hats says Grey Cup champs. Well, they weren't made yet. Lauren and I snuck in, got a hold of the guy, said, make us a couple because we're going to win. So we got them. we tucked them in our valises, we stuck them in our jackets, went onto the field. It was a hell of a game. Who remembers '89? That was just out of this world. So anyway, there goes, the Riders are winning. Lauren says, let's get them out. Oh, geez, the champion catches one in the end zone. Hamilton's winning. Put him away. Robo comes up. Boom. Hats on. First Grey Cup champions. We were the guys right there, Lauren. We were there together. It was a great time. It was so neat to be around the Riders on that sideline for all those years. Watch Jeremy O'Day as a rookie. Luke Mullender as a rookie. All these guys here today who lead this incredible franchise and what they do. Spectacular organization. I had the chance to be in that locker room after every game. I rode the bench forever. Got to interview them, see them. Ivan Goodfriend swore more than you could imagine. Great guy to be therapist. Hey, we can't forget about Normie Fong, the greatest doggone equipment manager in the history of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But I got a chance, and a very special opportunity, I call it a privilege, to be in that locker room after every game. Walk by the guys that are just beat to hell. They're battered and bruised. And I got to go by the ice machine. But I was the first guy to chat with every coach after every game before we went to the post-game talk show. Those were moments I will never, ever forget, because there were special, intimate moments that we get a chance to talk, not an interview a coach. You interview a coach, they're going to give you, planned answers. But this time, they were talking, you'd ask, how do you feel about it? How did it go? And they were very sincere, most of the time, except for Don Matthews. That was a package to deal with. Yeah, I had to deal with Don Matthews. We're going to do a post-game interview, and we gave Don the headset. And every game, I'm going to ask you a question. The first game we go on, we do a test run, make sure both headsets are working. Don, how was the game today? I can't hear anything. Sorry, I can't hear it. End of series. We never got to visit with Don Matthews after every game. But the two highlights, '89 Grey Cup, 2007 Grey Cup. What a time that was. That was unbelievable. To bring that cup home with Roger and Bob, the polecat, and all those guys, the history they brought back with. The saddest time was in Calgary. I'm doing the national radio sideline for all, it went across the world, our armed forces and all the stations across the country. And I'm standing beside Ken Miller. We're winning the game. And I put my hand on Ken Miller's shoulder. We had seconds to go. And that stinking flag popped up. Ken Miller's expression, he looked at me and I looked at him. I'm there to congratulate him for the winning that cup. And he just looked so sad. It was like a crushing blow to see that happen. And I'll never forget that I was a very fortunate guy to see Ken in a broom closet before any of the media got in to ask him the question for national radio. I said, Ken, what do you say? What would you say if you just lost the Grey Cup because of a flag too many men? What would you say? Ken is such a bright individual. All he said, guess what? We lost, but we're coming back. And the Riders have come back. Since I left, look at this record. It's gone crazy. So thank you, Saskatchewan Roughriders, for all that you've done for our province and the history. By the way, Dr. Baczynski was your father? My son is standing there when he broke his arm playing midget hockey. Your dad saved it. So thank you, Doc. And to the mayor of Moose Jaw, I want to thank you very much because we caused a riot for your town one day. I was made the honorary parade marshal in Moose Jaw, and the fans phoned the flea market and said, how the hell did you get that? You're from Regina, this is Moose Jaw. They needed to name somebody from Moose Jaw. So thank you, Moose Jaw. Great, great folks down there. Love that town. As I wrap it up about Fred King. Now, I've heard stories from Perry and Colin and everybody around here. People don't realize that Fred and I lived separate lives together. We did everything. And I mean everything. When someone says, oh, I've been to that town and that town to that town. No, we've been to every town. We've been to shake their hands, to talk to them, to dine with them, to have the odd pop with them. But we had the times of our life. And that doggone flea market is something else. I'll never forget the day the person in Broadview, probably Colin's hometown area, who couldn't hear us so well. So we told him to blow into the phone because there was a storm. He said, blow the rainwater out of there, you'll hear us better. And he did. Or Missy Royko, who's here tonight, the famous Mrs. Royko, who bugged the crap out of us all the time and kept repeating those articles. But thank you, Mrs. Royko, for being a star on our show. Thank you so much for that. The Pleasant Dale Nightingale, who created songs from on high. She thought about these songs, and we'd ask her to sing a song, and she'd have the most ridiculous lyrics you'd ever heard, but we gave her a hand. But she delivered us each a 50-pound home-raised turkey. Some of the perks. And Jeffrey, this guy here has lived through all of it because I've watched him from a little boy. When I came here in 1972, I worked at the station when it was just starting to change, to go to what it is today. They just started Evening Country. In fact, I spun the first record in Evening Country. And then it started to adjust. Great move, George Gallagher. And I want to, again, a hand for George Gallagher and Doreen and that family for taking it on. We hired Bob Arnold to be the program director who hired Moon. And then after Bob, who was at CKCK for years, went on to go to Edmonton at CJCA. And someone said, we've hired a guy by the name of Fred King. I talked to George about it, and George says, I know of him from Yorkton and been around. I said, you're going to love him. He's a good guy. His family's going to call it later. So Fred came in, and I said, Fred, I got to tell you something. I'm leaving in 15 days. I'm moving to Calgary. And I'd done the morning run. He said, you're what? Yeah, so I went off to Calgary, and that was one of the best jobs I'd had to learn from some of the seasoned pros. Came back here, George says, come back and do the flea market, because Fred and Moon started it. They're the guys who set it on its, drive to the top, and they were out of this world. The incomparable Ed Bain, the funniest man on the planet. He could be a stand-up comedian in Las Vegas who works with Jeff all the time. Those guys are sensational. They still are today on television. We had Paul Revere. We had so many of the great, great names that came through. But with Fred, we got together and we got this band thing going. Let me tell you, that was the greatest opportunity without advertising to take CKRM's name to the community and meet everybody. And I want to thank the King family for letting me in, being a family. But they're gone. But we thank you. Thank you, Fred, wherever you are, buddy. And last but not least, was in grade 10. I was in a chemistry class. Prior to that class, I was in biology, and I skinned a frog. And I took that frog, and I saw this girl with a crooked smile. And I put the frog skin in her chem book. That's how I met my wife. And we dated on and off for 6 years, because junior hockey took my time and music took my time. Whenever I wasn't playing one or the other, we dated. But it so happens that we have just hit 56 years. together. So I just want to highlight a couple of people. My son Scott and Sarah, who's a television magnate from Global Television Edmonton. Thank you for coming from Sherwood Park. And where's Caleb? I think Caleb's here. Peyton, thank you guys. And my youngest daughter, Melissa, with her husband, Jared, and my youngest twins, they're 9 years old. They just celebrated a birthday. I forget their names, Lily and Avery. Hi, guys. Thank you for coming. Hope you had fun tonight. And my eldest, Shelley, and her husband, Quinn, and two of our grandchildren couldn't be here today because they decided to go on some bloody holiday. And I said, well, that's okay, go. Being with us through this entire quagmire that I've gone through, they've lived it all with me. I never saw them go to school in the morning once. Never. I was at work. But I was there for all the other stuff, and the trouble and the good. But to my wife, Adeline, thank you for holding the roost together and keeping it going for my entire life. It was a real marriage, not one that was just made up or said, whatever. We did get married, honest, right from the very beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for coming to this incomparable event. 100 years. I remember when I signed my contract in 1926.
Ladies and gentlemen, the architect of CKRM, Willie Cole. And we'd like to invite our icons to join us on the stage, our builders with us here tonight, and the current on-air staff of 620 CKRM. We want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Willie, I'll just get you to come over here. Thanks to all of you for being with us tonight. We have an exciting year still planned. We have many things on the go. Keep listening for more at 620 CKRM. Everyone, come on up and join us.
Lauren, thank you, buddy.
Come on up. Don't be shy. Come on in front. Just come on up. Or you can, you can come to the front or go up on the stairs. Sure. Come on up, guys.
I'll get into the back.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so current staff on the floor right here.
Once again, thanks to all of you for coming. Thanks to our friends at home. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
If you'd like to share your feedback on the program you just watched, contact us today